everybody, welcome back to another movie review on the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the 2020 film Tenet. So Tenet is a film written and directed by Christopher Nolan, and it stars John David Washington, Robert Pattinson, Kenneth Branagh, and Elizabeth Debicki. And today, I'm not going to be reviewing this film alone, I'm going to be reviewing it with two of my friends, Parker and Dawson, better known for their world-famous YouTube channels, Condor Productions and Mr. DVB respectively. Without any further ado, let's switch over to the phone call. So, there on the bottom left there, as you guys probably know, is Mr. DVB, world famous. And then on the right, you've got 50 Mr. Hollywood himself, Parker Smith. So, to start off this review here, I guess, we're going to start by talking about the plot of the movie. Okay, so how would you guys describe the plot of this movie?
Alright, I guess I'll go first. So, Tenet, Christopher Nolan's 11th movie, which is basically his shot at trying to do a James Bond-esque film, but, trying to reinvent the spy genre, so it has those kind of elements, just as far as it's a pretty, at first glance, it's a pretty simple storyline. It's basically about ending this World War III type event. But the film obviously has Nolan's special touch, which in this case is inversion. So you'll have certain characters who basically enter this machine, which reverses the entropy of them. So they'll basically be doing things backwards. For them, it's working normally, but to everybody else, it looks like they're moving backwards. The event that they're trying to stop is basically people from the future have been communicating with this man who has cancer and is the main villain of the film, played by Kenneth Branagh. Who is also in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets as Professor Lockhart. And he basically, if he dies, this bomb will go off, which will basically reverse the entropy of Earth. So it would just be a giant cluster, mess up, and the world would be destroyed, I guess. And that's my best explanation. So basically, the main character embarks on a journey to stop that from happening.
Okay, so how did you guys like this premise? I thought it was a really cool premise, in my opinion. The switching entropy and having inverted people, it definitely led to some really cool moments, I think, in the film.
Yeah, I think it was, very interesting to watch. I still think Inception is his most creative concept.
I will agree with that too, yeah.
Yeah, but I think, especially from, because I think this is by far, in my opinion, Nolan's best action movie. If you're just looking at the action perspective, I think this film was really strong for that. So the whole inversion idea, there was definitely moments in this film, this is a spoiler part of the video, but there was moments in this film where, especially when you see John David Washington's character and you realize he was the person that he was fighting earlier on in the movie in the airport, or where he's in the silver car and he was the one that got in the car crash. Those moments for me were, first of all, great twists, but it was just so cool seeing all these action sequences repeat from an alternate angle.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool how they were able to repeat the exact entire sequence from the reverse angle, especially the one where he's fighting himself hand to hand. I thought that was that was probably the best action scene in the movie.
Yeah, I agree. That moment was really awesome, especially just at the second, they leave the container and they're walking towards the airport and you see him with that outfit on, you're like, oh crap, he's fighting himself. And that was just such a great moment for me. So yeah. Really, I thought concept-wise, it was really good. And that's one thing I like about Nolan is he tells these films that, at their core, have pretty simple stories, right? Inception's basically just a film about planting an idea in a CEO's head so he'll break up his company, and the main character's journey is trying to get home to his kids. Or Interstellar is a film about a man trying to get back to his kids, or more specifically his daughter. But he also, includes these really interesting, creative and I guess just this really cool visuals type things with Inception, the dreams, with this it's inversion. So I thought inversion was just really cool in this movie.
Yeah, and I like how I haven't seen it twice yet, but I like how it seems like he sets everything up ahead of time so that you can predict these twists. How he had Neil or whatever, he had him fight the which one was it? The non-inverted version, and then
non-inverted version of John David Washington.
Yeah, of John David Washington's character, and you can piece that together. That it's obviously going to be someone they know, and then it just makes complete sense that it's been him all along. I think in the end, it can't. I don't know. I think it's
it makes for really cool moments, and just to further talk about the inclusion of inversion and how it works really well from an action standpoint. I also think in the final act, one moment that I really love is when there's this building that they have to blow up, but the thing is, if they blow it up for one side, it's going to reverse for the other people. So basically both sides have to blow it up at once. So you see the building kind of like get blown up and then it rebuilds itself, but then it blows up again because both sides are having to destroy it once.
Yeah, that was really cool. And how they like were having to time it so it was exactly exploding and imploding at the same time.
Yeah, and so I thought that was very, very awesome. So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on like the story, I guess, and just the concept of it all. I thought it was definitely like, at first glance, you could say kind of a generic story, but just because of the inclusion of the infant version, it makes it feel so unique for what it is.
Yeah. And I feel like structure-wise, it's obviously a very plot-heavy movie. That's like the main thing that they're going for. It obviously has a lot of exposition because it's a very complicated idea to try and portray to an audience, I think. Because like, I'm speaking for myself here, I'm definitely super confused still about a lot of stuff in that. It's definitely something that requires multiple viewings.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, when I saw it the second time, I definitely got a better grasp of things. Like, one scene I was kind of confused about the first time around was, I don't know if you'll recall, but when the main villain, Sator, when he gets killed at the end, you know how, like, she reveals her bullet wound to him, and then he kind of looks like, oh shit, and then she kills him?
Yeah.
I was kind of confused, but what it was is both of them were from the, like, I knew that she was obviously from the future, and she was just going back to that moment, but I forgot that, or I just didn't really, like, realize that that was also him from the future, because he mentions, like, oh, I just came back to see you again, and returned from the helicopter. So it's like when he saw that because he thought that she was the past version, so when he saw that she was, you know, the one with the bullet wound, he knew that was the one that he had shot, because he thought he killed her, so he was like, oh shit, and then, yeah, so there was just moments like that where on rewatch I got more clarity, and it's also like, obviously the movie's twists aren't going to be as powerful on rewatch, just because it's not like the first time watching it, but there was just certain things, like in the very beginning, it was just nice kind of knowing, like, the history of Neil and, Robert Pattinson's character is Neil, and John David Washington's character, like, just how the fact that I really liked the ending. I think one of my favorite scenes from a non-action standpoint is just when Neil's explaining, like, you know, this is the end of our friendship, but it's also the beginning of our shared friendship for you.
But I also liked how in that moment, like, you don't actually get to see Robert Pattinson's character die. It's never actually, like, told to you, per se.
Well, because he got shot in the head. He was the person in the...
But you can't tell that it's him at the start, can you?
What do you mean at the start?
Like when he actually is shot, you can't tell it's him, right?
No, not right away. Not necessarily, because, like, yeah, you don't know right away. It's not until you see him walking away, and then it's the close-up of the tag again. Because when he got shot, they focus on the tag. But that's also, like, his tag was also in the opera scene. He was the guy that saved the main character at the very beginning of the film. Like, when he was about to get shot in the opening scene in the opera house, and you see, like, there's, like, on a bench, there's kind of, like, a hole in it, and it reverses, and then a bullet goes through a guy.
Yeah.
That was
oh, that was him, and he was inverted at that time?
Yeah, that was Neil all the way, like, going all the way back then, because he had the red tag on him.
I didn't notice that at first viewing, at least.
So Neil was there as well. So, like, Neil has been, like, he was, you know, at the very beginning of the movie. So it's really cool just, like, watching it and noticing small things like that. And I actually feel like, well, I think on first watch it probably is Nolan's most confusing movie. I think after watching it a second time, there was so much that I already grasped more, so...
I feel like we've already talked quite a bit about action here. Do you guys have anything else you'd like to say about that type of stuff?
Not really. I mean, I just thought it was excellent. I definitely think it was his best film for action, because I know in the past people have complained about choreography in his movies, and I think here it was done really well. Like, the first time watching it, I loved the kitchen fight, like, where John David Washington's in the kitchen, he just beats the crap out of all those guys and uses, like, the cheese grater on that one guy.
Yeah.
That was a really badass moment. And that kind of ties into the soundtrack, which I guess we'll talk about later, maybe.
Well, that's actually the next thing on my list here. I think the soundtrack is definitely a really strong part of this movie.
Yeah, so this is actually the first time since The Prestige that Nolan hasn't worked with Hans Zimmer on a score. And, I mean, I think when those two guys work together, it's always fantastic. Like, they kind of, in my opinion, they're like the modern-day Spielberg and John Williams, just as far as a pair of director and composer who work so well together. And at first, like, it was a bit jarring when it was announced for me that he wouldn't be returning because he was working on Dune. But I think Ludwig Göransson, who also scored Black Panther and The Mandalorian, I think he did a great job. I think that the film had, like, I just love, like, the synthy kind of tone of it. I like how a lot of the themes are actually played in reverse. So, for example, in, like, some scenes when a character's reversed, it'll be the same theme that played in the original version of the theme, or of the scene, just reversed. So I liked how they played on the music that way.
Yeah, that's...
It was really loud and bassy, which I liked. I know there's a lot of complaints about the sound mixing. I never found it to be a huge issue. I just brought it up to you guys because I know so many people have that issue.
I actually did have an issue with the dialogue sometimes.
There's bothered me too much. Yeah, it did bother me much, honestly. There's about 2 scenes where I think it's a problem, but it, honestly, like, I think it's somewhat of a creative choice, but it does kind of hurt, like, some of the more exposition-heavy scenes. But, yeah, I thought the soundtrack was great. One thing that this film, and this will kind of tie into a little bit later, maybe when we talk about the characters, I guess, but the film, you know, because one thing I think Nolan's very good at least for me personally, I know you guys haven't seen Interstellar yet, but...
well, I've seen Interstellar.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's my personal favorite Nolan film. It's not for many people, but the reason I like Interstellar so much is because of the emotional, like, core of it. I think that's, like, one thing Nolan's actually pretty good at is giving us these films that, yeah, have really cool and interesting concepts, but at the core of them, they do have something that we can, like, personally care for. Like, in Inception, you care about Cobb getting home to his kids. In Interstellar, you care about him getting home to his daughter. I didn't think Tenet really had a strong emotional core. I think the emotional core of the movie was supposed to be, like, Kat and her son. But
Yeah.
I still obviously wanted her to, like, reunite with him and stuff, but it just... The payoff at the end, honestly, it wasn't really there for me. Like, I thought it was a good ending, I just didn't think there was really, like, any huge payoff to that arc.
Yeah, and there wasn't really many sad, like, emotional, jarring scenes, really, like...
Yeah, it was more so, like, basically her getting over, like, her abusive relationship, I guess is how I would put that part of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, and, yeah, so, like, the rest of the characters, like, I don't think they really had much of an emotional attachment, so it kind of made for the characters to be a little bit less compelling or interesting than, like, some of his other movies, but I also, like, I don't always think that's a huge issue because, like, I also, like, I'm someone who really likes Dunkirk, and that was a film that the characters were definitely the weakest part, but I also don't think that was the point of that movie. And, like, with this film, I think it would have benefited if it had stronger characters in that sense, but, again, it's not something that, like, detracts my score by, like, 5 points for not having like...
And, like, the purpose of this movie was the plot and the premise. The characters weren't what was important about this movie.
Yeah, like, he used the characters in this movie as a tool to basically showcase that story that he created.
Yeah.
I really liked, because I know my brother, I was talking to him, and he wasn't a huge fan of John David Washington in the film, who plays the protagonist. He kind of said that, like, kind of like how I explained it was, I think with his character, he was supposed to feel kind of contained because he's meant to be this spy who, like, is considered dead, he has no name. He's basically just, like, you know, like this protagonist who doesn't really convey much emotion because he's a spy, and I didn't mind that. I liked the, like, kind of humor that his character had. Like, I liked some of his, like, his lines that were just kind of more humorous. I just thought it worked well. I think the strongest performance actually came from Elizabeth Debicki as Kat. Like, I thought she, for me personally, had the strongest performance out of everybody in the film.
She was also probably the one given the most to work with.
Yeah, she definitely had the most, like, emotional range she had to convey. I think Robert Pattinson was a little bit underused, actually, honestly, from what I was expecting, but I really liked his character in the movie.
I liked the relationship at the end, like you said, where they revealed their friendship. I really liked that moment.
Yeah, I thought that was a great moment, especially, like, it's not a huge thing, but, like, just, like, having John David Washington's character, just, like, you know, you can tell he was, like, emotional in that scene. I kind of liked that aspect.
Yeah.
I thought the villain, like, some people think he's, like, a little bit cartoonish, but I actually kind of liked the way he's portrayed. Like, I thought he was good.
I didn't have any problems with him, I don't think.
No, I thought he was good. Like, I thought he came across as, like, a pretty decent villain. So I didn't have any complaints there. So yeah, overall, I mean, for the most part, characters, like, they weren't among Nolan's best, I wouldn't say, but I still thought they were, you know, well made for the most part. Like, I thought they were good.
Yeah. I guess we'll compare this to Christopher Nolan's other stuff, where would you feel that this stands among his other films? Because obviously he's made a lot of great films in his time.
Yeah, my ranking, I had it up on my channel. Yeah, this film for me ranks probably about 5th. I'd say it's kind of below Dark Knight Rises for me, which is surprisingly a lot of people's least favorite Dark Knight film, and well, that's not surprising, but like as far as a lot of people consider it one of his weakest movies, but I really like Dark Knight Rises. So yeah, it's between 5th and 4th for me, is kind of where I would place it.
I'd say I'd place it probably 4th behind Inception, Interstellar, and The Dark Knight, I think.
Yeah, for me, my favorite is Interstellar, then Inception, then Dark Knight, but Inception and Dark Knight can honestly be switched, like that's not really possible for me to choose one over the other. And then yeah, then I'd say Dark Knight Rises most likely 4th, and this probably places 5th.
What about you, Parker? Where would you rank this among his?
I haven't seen all the Nolan films. I've pretty much just seen Dark Knight trilogy and Inception, and I'd probably watch the Dark Knight trilogy before this. Maybe I might like it more than Dark Knight Rises, like Dawson was saying. But I definitely wouldn't put it above Inception or Dark Knight.
Okay, so unless you guys have any other thoughts you want to say here, I guess we can move on to all of our scores.
Yeah, no, just overall, I have to go in a second, but like, I'm definitely gonna go see the movie a 3rd and most likely 4th time. I think it's a great movie. I think it's Nolan's best action film to date, like just from a pure action standpoint. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have any complaints with the movie. Obviously, I don't think it's his strongest film for characters, but that doesn't, like, really detract from my score a lot, just because of, like we said, that's not exactly what this movie was going for. So, right now, my rating is pretty much at about a 9.5. Like, which is extremely high, but, like, it's very close to a 10 for me, because I just think it's extremely well made. I don't have any actual problems with it, so I just think it's great.
Okay, well, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 across the board. I thought quality-wise, the only thing it's really lacking is, like, perfect characters.
Yeah.
Like, the characters are good, they're fine, they're just not the best they could be. That's the only thing that holds it back. And I think it's a really entertaining movie throughout the entirety of it. It makes you think the whole time. It definitely warrants rewatches over and over again, which I think is proof of a good movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd give it a 9. I'm definitely gonna go see it a second time.
Alright, sounds good.
It's like a rewatch.
Yeah, if you guys want to, yeah, I'd go with you guys again. Alright, see ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Okay, anything else to say here then, Pete Addy, before I let you go?
I got nothing MTV. I hope it was a good emotional support for that one.
Yeah, you were very good emotional support. Thanks for coming onto the channel.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye. Okay guys, so that was the review. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you liked that. It might be tough to hear them at times. Video quality might not be the best. We'll see how it goes in the end here, but thank you guys all for watching. Make sure you check out Parker's channel, Condor Productions, and Dawson's channel, Mr. DVB. I'll have them linked at the end of the video here. Dawson referenced his Christopher Nolan video. You guys should definitely check that out if you haven't already. And check out Condor Productions and Mr. DVB for movie reviews, short films, stuff like that. And yeah, thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought about Tenet in the comments down below. And I will see you guys in the next video. If you want more updates on videos, check out my Instagram, ntd_films. Thank you all for watching, and have a good day.